So, some people in there. There's just energy. Energy is, when I say nothing being everything, which you hear quite a lot, everything being nothing, I'm saying the same thing as just energy, because energy is everything and no thing. And that's all there is. And in that, there can arise a sense that there's you that's in the body. There's a separateness, there's a separation, there's a world out there, and there's a you in here looking out on it. And that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. It's an illumination of the artificial nature of that sense of being separate is a story. That's all, nothing more. It's not a real separateness that began and that we can somehow melt back into wholeness or whatever. It's not going to only apparently, it's only apparently real. You're already not separate. There's already just energy. There's already no you and a world out there. There's just what appears to be happening. And what appears to be happening is so immediately unknowable. It's so immediately is and isn't that it is totally beyond knowing and understanding. And it's the person who lives in that closed loop of their own knowing. So it's a sharing, it's a description, and it resonates as it resonates. And we'll see what happens. If a question comes up, it's there to be asked. Really, this is about a resonance and energy. It's not about getting an answer, but the questions seem to be there, and there's an energetic aspect of simply just asking. Hi, Vipula.
Kenneth, am I audible?
Yeah.
All right. I asked you the same question sometime back. I will probably try to rephrase the question. It's this appearance of the story, and my question was, in that appearance, there seems to be a continuity. A continuity. It's like a flow, and
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah. I would like to hear from you. Why is that
Yeah,
continuity?
it's a very integral part of feeling like a person is a sense of continuity and a living in time. Like when people have a really lived sense of time, not just time as a kind of function in the story. There's a real sense that there's time and space, and a sense of this linear sequential continuity of life. So there's a really lived feeling of moving through time and having a past and being somewhat present now and then moving into a future. It's all an aspect of feeling like a person. You've gone, have you?
That feeling of that person. Yeah. Okay. That
There you are, sorry.
continuity, that it appears not only in the person, but as well as what is surrounded by, the surrounding. So the continuity.
Oh yeah, so for the reality for the person is not just some kind of internal reality. The reality is what's appearing to happen. So there's a sense then that reality is kind of neutral reality, and then I have my own take on that neutral reality. So in the story there's this accepted reality, and then everyone has access to that, whereas actually everyone is just living their own reality, and a part or an aspect of that lived reality is that there's a shared reality. So it seems to be in your reality, because it's a reality. It's not an idea or a thought. Like people have live in a reality. They live in the real, and in that reality, there's a linear movement through of life, and what it is, everything is very sequential. One thing happens, then another. It's causality. You know, causality and time, really, I would see them as really the same. It's this really lived sense of causality, of one thing happens in other things. I get out of bed, I put on my clothes, I go, I have my breakfast, I I get in the car, I go. There's a real sense of that, that I'm there doing it, and it's really happening. So what's been illuminated here is that actually there is no you in there that's doing anything. This is either, this can resonate and be very obvious. There never has been. So there's just what's appearing to happen. So in that example, there's getting out of bed, there's putting on clothes, there's eating of breakfast. There's no you, there's no person who does any of that. But when it feels like there's a person, that it feels real. It feels completely real, that there's a world there, I'm here, and I'm moving through it. So then an aspect of that realness is the causality and the sequential linear movement in time. It just feels totally real. I can't convince anyone it isn't, and I'm not trying to either. That's a really important part of this. I have no agenda to convince anyone of anything. But the suggestion is that that's all is in the story of me. When that sense of being an individual apparently collapses, then there's no longer that sense of that that causality, you know, that really linear movement in time and through life, because there's no you who's moving through life, you see, because there's just then what's appearing to happen, and then it's a mystery. It's just it's living in the unknown, and there's the appearance of things happening, but the realness falls out of them. It's impossible to describe, and it's the same as before, but it's indescribably different.
Yeah, that's what I want to. So it becomes indescribable because, you know, it all revolves around the person, you know, whatever the language you use, right?
Yeah, it's not describable, and it's also indescribably simple and ordinary. It's just whatever appears to be happening. It's not that it's not describable because it's terribly esoteric and complicated. It's not like that. It's just there's the isness of everything is just everything is and isn't. It's energy, and then it appears as things happening. It appears as happenings, but they're only an appearance. Then the realness collapses out of them because the realness was from you. So everything you could say then is real and unreal, in the same way that everything is nothing and nothing is everything. But the solidness of the narrative totally collapses. So when there's no sense then that there's a you, things are happening to, then things aren't happening to other people either in story, or only in the story. That's all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot,
All right,
Kenneth.
thanks.
Appreciate very much. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kenneth. Kenneth, it can see. Yeah, you say the same thing in many different way, but when you say beyond, it is just. Yeah, I can't remember what you said, but this beyond, and in my ear, it can sound like beyond this and this, then it is totally paradise, and
Oh, yeah, I
yeah,
understand.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But you say at the same time, this it is totally simple. It is just what is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
you see, we're very limited by words. So,
yeah,
there's a limit to it's in, and this is indescribable. It's completely indescribable also, and all that can be done really is just point towards the obvious.
Yeah.
And it can be seen, and also the other thing is the person is dualism, so the person is this play of opposites, so it's kind of like it's this way or it's this way, it's one way or the other,
Yeah.
and it's both. So, and that's beyond the mind too. So, I can say something and I could turn around and say, and it's not that either. Like immediately after it. Or sometimes I say something and someone says, but it's not that either though. And I go, oh, obviously not. Because it is both. It is.
Yeah.
We really are speaking about something that's beyond the mind. It's beyond understanding, and it's indescribably ordinary and obvious.
Yeah.
It's just energy. It's just whatever already. It's sitting on a chair, speaking. sound of voice, computer, birds chirping. It's whatever is appearing to happen.
Yeah.
There's no you that it's happening to. There never has been.
No, and it seems like this what we're talking about, this contraction or this the me reflect in a way the reality, so it goes away from just what is, like a glass. The me is like a glass between. It's really it is this. It is just what is, and at the same time, it's the inside outside is the same. There's no no one to I could say destroy just what is.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm clear, but it just seems that inside outside is the same. There's
actually there's no inner. There is there is no inner or outer. Like that's the dualism of the person. The person is dualism of feeling that there's a world out there and there's a me in here.
Yeah.
And that's the people speak about the inner landscape of the mind and the inner and the internal world. And it's all a story.
Yeah.
Because there is no actual inner and there is no outer. And there's just simply what's appearing to happen. But for the person, when there's a contracted sense of feeling separate, there very much is an inner and outer. There is a play of opposites. It's absolutely real for the person.
Yeah.
And then it's when it can be seen that it's not. It's a story.
Okay, thank you, Kenneth.
Thanks, Kim. Hi, Victoria.
I can add, if everything is both, why cannot be everything Christ consciousness or Krishna consciousness?
Well, it can be, and it is in the story. It's all sorts of things in the story. It's Buddha consciousness, and it's universal consciousness, and it's all of this stuff. But as far as this communication goes, all of those things are terribly confusing. So why would I use those words? And they usually then what they do is they, like, even say a simple word like God, because people sometimes say, well, okay, so Kenneth, everything is nothing, nothing is everything, it's only energy. Why not just say God then? Because why not just say what you think of as God is actually just...
but I don't think like an
no, I'm just using that as an example. I'm just saying for our, Krishna consciousness, whatever. If you want to substitute all of these things, really you're in one way or another feeding the person, because it's just
No, here is no person. It's just.
I'm talking in general terms. I'm not talking about you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can hear whatever you want to hear. I'm saying here why these, in general terms, these words are not used, because they represent an object for the person, and the person then thinks, oh, okay, so this is compatible with Krishna consciousness, and this is kind of the same as that, and it's not.
I don't think,
And it's not at all, because that's a concept the person would have in their mind of that or God or something else. They've objectivized
I
something.
just meant everything is Atman, so it's not inside or no outside. Just
Oh yeah, like I mean, there's plenty of terms in there's plenty of expressions in lots of different religions and spiritual things that are very much saying what is being said.
No, everything is same. So the Krishna consciousness and Christ, everything is the same thing. So.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but the difficulty then is the language starts layering up, and then it starts speaking to somebody, and it's utter dogma, and it's completely gone. So it's only certain things that are said, but they get layered over then with,
Yeah, it's falling away already. So
yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Kenneth.
Hi.
So, there is only energy in different forms.
All there is energy. So all there is energy, and then when we feel like people, we see, books and computers and desks and people, and we think of them as separate objects and things. We experience them like that because we are the subject and they're an object to my subject, and then in that way, then things aren't seen as they actually are. They're almost imprisoned in that subject-object reality. And what's being suggested here is there is no separation. There are no separate things. There's energy and energy computers, Kenneths, microphones, and this speaks to the boundlessness of all that is already, as opposed to the constricted, contracted real sense of separateness that the person experiences.
Yeah, you're very clear. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm not anything, actually. That's the funny thing. It's just from nothing. A clear communication is from nothing and from unknowing. So what or who recognizes that
it's just speaking.
Yeah, there is just speaking, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just sharing from nothing without agenda.
Yeah.
What or who recognizes that there is no one? So that's feeding into what we're saying right now. Nothing. So when you no longer feel like a person, there is nobody who recognizes that there's this or that, or nobody who knows. There's just what appears to happen. And it's seen that you were never really there, and other people aren't actually there. It's an artificial sense of being separate. But if you feel like a person, that is absolutely, completely, totally and utterly impossible, because there has to be somebody for even things to be happening. There has to be somebody who recognizes something for even this expression to come out, because you feel like a person, so therefore there has to be somebody else always. So it's beautiful, really. It's in this communication. When this is shared, it's so bamboozling to the person, and they could never understand how they would not, and they're not being asked to understand how there would be nobody. It's only in the lived experience, experience maybe is the wrong word, their lived reality of their just that sense of being separate, not being there. And it's very obvious there's just what's appearing to happen. And there's no need for there to be somebody to collect that, know that, or whatever. And that sense of being somebody is just a story. It's artificial.
Hi, Kenneth.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Oh, Libby. Hi, Libby. How you doing?
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. I just wondered if you'd speak about them being no space, like there's no time and no space as well, please.
Yeah. So space is just like, again, you're coming back to everything is and isn't, so you could say there's space. There's, in the sense that there's 2 meters between me and that door over there, and so on, but for the person, there's in the same way that it would take me a second to walk from there to there. So you have this kind of continuum of time and space that feels totally real to the person. It's like it's living in the real. Being an individual is living in the real. It's living in the absolute real. And that sense of space is very real. And kind of how we started this too, that gentleman was asking about just that sense of continuity being so real, and it's an aspect of that sense of linear movement as a person through life. And really it's just real. It appears real till it doesn't, it's sometimes when I'd often hear from people when they no longer feel like a separate person, it's either one or the other can be quite obvious. And often it's the time one. It's very clear this time is a construct. It's just a functional thing that appears to happen. So it can still tell the time and meet someone at 2:00 at the under the clock, like we used to do years ago before we had mobile phones. I'll meet you at 2:00 at the corner of or in such and such a place. So it's just it's just something that appears to happen, but the realness totally collapses out of it, and it's just eternity. This is eternal. Like we talk about eternity and wonder about eternity and postulate about eternity, and this is eternity. This is eternity. This is just boundless, eternal, and infinite. So it's in that sense, like some people, then I've heard other people just sense that sense of space, just totally, their sense of movement being very clearly seen, that there was nobody moving anywhere actually. And so I've heard people describe sometimes of a sense even that instead of them moving through, it was like everything was kind of nearly moving through them, but then it was seen there was nothing moving anywhere, and so that whole sense of space just collapses. So it can be either, and it can be neither also. There's many people who the sense of separation isn't there, or is weak, or doesn't appear to be there. But if you ask them about time and space, they say, I have no idea. I just know that I can't say anything about that. All I know is there's just what's appearing to happen.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Libby, nice to hear you. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Kenneth. Sorry, no, about the background noise. I'm parked at the side of a road here.
Okay,
Yeah,
next time
could
you just pull up
with
at a nice
regards,
scenic kind of place next time? Maybe have a beach behind you or something, or a nice kind of sunset. Just for
sure,
next time, just so you know,
sure, yeah,
it'd be
very
just
possible.
it'd be
Yeah,
nice.
no bother. I can do
Sorry,
that.
I'm
Yeah, no
I'm
bother,
only
no bother.
joking around,
I
obviously.
think people running around the background. I know. Yeah, with regard with regards to time, the concept of time, would it be fair to say, with there being no time, that there's one moment, and that's just like an act on a stage, so the props keep changing.
Yeah,
So, like in the blinking of the eye, we call it getting older. So as the eyes are blinking and as the sleep is happening, that the props are continuously changing in this one moment. So
yeah,
we'll say my great grandfather was still in this moment. So the moments haven't shifted. What's happened is the props have changed, including this prop.
yeah. You could like. I mean, I've no issue with that description. I mean, as we were saying earlier, this is indescribable. You know, and that's a nice way of saying it. The way you said it there. The reason I don't use the word moment is kind of, for me, moment implies a past and a future, and that's what happens. Like when I was about, I used to really think about the now or the moment. And I remember when I was a teenager, I said to my dad, "Dad, maybe is there just the moment, like what?" And I remember describing it. I was really struggling with the language. I go, like, maybe one long moment, like, because I was really kind of wondering about, when does the future start, really? Like, when does it actually kind of start? Like, where's the boundary, and when does the past start? So I was really perplexed by this, and I started to feel, but it was more of an energetic sense, that it was very I remember it being very real resonance to it, that there's just kind of, and really the resonance was, there's just this, isn't there? There's just this, what's appearing to happen. And it was funny. It was a nice conversation, because it was like, what are you talking about? Of course there's whatever. But at that, and then I saw the difficulty with using terms like there's only the now, right? Or there's only the moment, because those words imply a then. They imply a now implies a then, and a now implies, and so that's why I totally avoid them, because actually there is no now and there is no moment even. There's just what's appearing to happen. There's just energy. So that's the way I would word it. And I don't mean to sound like I'm correcting you, because I'm not correcting you, because the way you said it was lovely, and I'm not, there's no right or wrong with it. But that's where I kind of just a little bit with the words.
Another word that comes to mind is on. It's like a television. It's just on. That's it. There's no off. It's a continuous on.
Yeah. It's on. It's both. You see, this is where it gets totally beyond understanding. It's on and off, because it's everything on is no thing. They're not two different things. Like, so there's not two different things called on and off. So like, yeah, so it's everything is no thing, and it's as you said, maybe it's like an on. If I would say that on, if you just say energy, it's just an energy that's just like, it's constant in that sense, that it's the only constant there is. It's just, it's inescapable. It's completely inescapable. And I think that's what I feel. That's the words I would say back there, and that's the sense I get of the way you're seeing it.
Yeah, I understand. I get the energy. I kind of jump from one to the other, but there was a couple of years ago I had an experience, and I won't go into the details of the experience, but where when I'm a serious searcher, I was like a greyhound, probably still am, and I went on the ayahuasca scenes and all this kind of stuff. So I can remember one time just opening my eyes and seeing seeing the energy you're referring to and just seeing everything as this energy.
Yes,
It
yeah.
was scary, actually.
It can be scary for the person.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this, what's been shared this morning is very confronting to the person. And it doesn't have to be at all. It can be very gentle and it just can resonate. Okay, but it can be very confronting, because really that's spelling out your own absence and seeing everything just energy. What's being confronted by that is everything is just everything's energy, and what's being confronted by it is this sense of there's a separate me. Because when that is seen like that, there's a big danger in that, and the danger is the death of you, the revealing of your absence. And so that feels separate feels absolutely confronted, and will desperately go back to knowing concepts and reinforcing that reinforcing contracted energetic sense that there's that out there and there's me in here.
Yeah.
So it can be a lot of these things are very confronting. People hear about them. People hear about all these kind of fireworky, blissful awakenings, and they think, oh, that's but like some of them are extremely, extremely confronting. It can be like that, of course, and then that's it. That's obviously it too, and it doesn't have.
I think from the dualistic perspective, that when this starts happening, you're faced with non-existence, because when you're dual, there's existence, and then this non-existence starts kicking on the door, and it's.
And that's exactly it. Yeah, we're always faced with non-existence, because this is actually non-existence, or maybe to put it differently, absence is what we're most yearning for. What's most yearning for is to just not be this little entity that's moving, negotiating through the world, and for there just to be what's appearing to happen. So that then is the wholeness that's yearned for is just already just whatever appears to be, and that yearning for that is also the most confronting thing. So that's what we're also it's a beautiful paradox that what we yearn for most is what we're most afraid of also. Because you don't want to be, you want to continue, you don't want that absence. So you don't actually want what the person does not want what's being suggested here at all, and that's why the person isn't being spoken to here.
Yeah, I had an experience there as well the other night. I was just sitting my own sides and stuff, but I found that I was just observing to something. I was observing the thoughts, and I know this is kind of dual as well. And I realized the thoughts were just this talking in the head, and I started kind of just not ignoring them, but just letting them happen away. And then I got this feeling like that for someone to realize, or someone to drop that, you enter a space that's indescribable, because you've left the whole intellect and the whole knowing outside the door. So once you pop in there, there's absolutely no way of even explaining it or seeing it or anything at all. It's just like, I suppose that non-existent.
Yeah, and what I would take out of that whole thing is you haven't done anything there at all. That's because the person feels that, okay, so I was there and I thought I was thinking, and then I entered a space where there was just the thinking, and it was indescribable. It was the same, but it was indescribably different. And then I came out of that space, and what's being suggested here is you didn't do any of that, because you're not even there. Already you're not there. But maybe that sense of being a you kind of appeared to collapse, and there's just thought, there's just thinking, and then appeared to come back again, which when it appears to come back again, then there's a whole narrative of I went into a space and came out of a space again. Do you follow me?
I do indeed.
Yeah, so that's there's nothing, this is not about something that will happen to you or that you can get into or come out of, or all of that's a story.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Hi, Said.
Yeah, hi, Kenneth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about the time and distance, space. But is it more like that? It's not the objective sense of the objectiveness of the time and space or whatever, but is it more like that the sense of the me, where there's no more sense of the me, so there's no more sense of the time, like there's distance, but there's no one traveling.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Yeah. There's no, like, when it's indescribable though, when there's no longer a sense of being a separate person, nobody will be able to tell you what that's like. But one consistent thing you'll hear about it is it's very ordinary. It's remarkably, or they could not express how ordinary and simple it is, because you're already not there. So what's been yearned
Yeah.
for is just simply already what's appearing to happen. And what's seen is that sense of being a person was a story. It was an overlay that appeared to go over. And then, these expressions come out and about time or space or causation or our free will or all these different things. And it's just, sometimes there might be very clear, if someone doesn't feel there anymore, they might be able to clearly describe, and sometimes other times they won't be able to say anything about that. There'll just be what's appearing to happen.
Yeah.
So none of them are really are significant. Like, there's nothing in that any of what's being said really that is significant, but for the person, they live in the known. So any talk or expression would be, they're taking notes because they want to know, because they live in the known. So they want to know about time, they want to know about space, they want to know about causation, they want to know about free will, and it's fine. But as far as this communication goes, all of the exploration of all those things is just energetic. It's not with any goal or any there's no significance in any of it, because really this sharing is just about a resonance. And when it resonates, that sense of being separate can apparently collapse.
Yeah.
And then whatever, like, it does not matter then if someone, like, I've seen people that apparently collapsed, just didn't feel separate anymore, and then would say, I have nothing to say about nothing and everything. I have no idea about that. No idea. I have nothing to say about it. All I can say is there's just what's appearing to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a sense here that all the objects, these are all the objects in the end, the objectiveness of everything, because there's no here.
Yeah, the objects, like, things are objects because you're a subject looking at something.
Yeah.
So they're not objects at all, actually. And there's no relationship to the other, because it's only separate things that relate to each other. And it's only in that sense that you're a separate, that they are an object. They don't need to be released from your from the prison of you seeing them as an object, because they're already not objects. And it's only when you don't feel like a person, so the subject collapses, obviously then there's no object. There has to be a subject for there to be an object.
Yeah.
So then there's just aliveness. There's just what appear as other people. It's just life, peopling, objects, things that appear to happen, so on. It's all energy, and it can't be any different than it is. It's beautiful, and it's ugly, and it's pleasurable, and it's painful, and it's everything and nothing.
Yeah, time is also an object.
Time's real and unreal. Yeah, it's for the person it's real. Only.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks. Thank you. Hi, Claire.
Hi. I just wonder if you could maybe say something, please, about the body-mind conditioning of the brain.
Could you come closer to the computer a bit? You're a little bit. Your mic is a bit low. Yeah.
Is that any better?
Yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah, thanks.
I'm just wondering, Kenneth, if you could say something about the conditioning that happens in the body, mind, and the brain, and our reactions to reaction, to reaction, where there isn't a self or a me deciding to do this or that. And because I've been listening to YouTube and that, and the idea, okay, and I still think this is very much you, but the idea seems to be to me that it was like, oh, so all those kind of disciplines that I would have thought were good and healthy, like the 5 mindfulness trainings or whatever. And so I have found myself deciding, for example, on a weekday, which I wouldn't normally decide, I'll have a glass of wine. So this is me now kind of going with a glass of wine. Oh, that's lovely. Go for a walk, and so I find myself not doing things that normally I think maybe I'm almost conditioned to. But I find it a little bit kind of, okay, if there's no me deciding I'll have a glass of wine, or no me not deciding I won't have one. Discipline. But I'm finding it a little bit kind of confused, not so much confusing, but it's a bit like, I hope this doesn't last too long.
Yeah,
somehow.
I know you're in danger really there, Claire. I'd be quite worried because you could slip into spiritual laziness, and there's a real danger of having a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
be quite worried about you. The possibility of fun, of good times is just too much, and that's not spiritual. That's just lazy, and where is that going to get you? Where is a glass of wine midweek going to get you?
Or so it's funny in that somewhere in me says, oh, grand, nothing to do with me. I'm just for the ride, if you like. I'm just here.
Yeah.
Not doing anything. But
so there's just what appears to happen. So if the going for a walk just appears to happen, having a glass of wine on the weekend or a midweek hump day, having a glass of wine appears to happen, and then we add ourselves to it. So we say, I'm deciding now, it's Wednesday, you know what, I'm going to break out, I'm just going to live a little, I'm going to have a glass of wine with my dinner. And we really have a lived sense that we decided to do that. And we forgo the walk in favor of the wine, and we have a sense that we've also done that, and so on. And what's being shared and suggested is there is already nobody there. So if walking is what's appearing to happen, then that's what's appearing to happen. If it's drinking a glass of wine, then that's what's appearing to happen.
But where does body mind conditioning?
Well, the conditioning would be the sense of you being a separate person who would feel that maybe certain practices and certain behaviors are significant and will be more in tune with some kind of way of life that you think is good. So there's all sorts of conditioning into behavior in that is good for you and good for other people, and may also get you somewhere. So some of the spiritual practices are just conditioning that there's a sense that behavior is like that, and that it's significant and will be good for you or whatever. And then when there's no body, and there already is nobody, or when that sense of being a person is no longer, all of that can totally and utterly collapse, because it's seen that there's nobody going for the walk and there's nobody having the wine. So whichever appears to happen. And this is the free fall, the boundless free fall of it.
So it's not just that enjoying the wine, not bothering walking, it's just more conditioning, that it's maybe an earlier conditioning before the conditioning of.
No, I mean you're complicating the whole thing way too much, really, thinking that there's this conditioning and there's different types of conditioning, and there's a judgment there on the behavior, right? So there's a judgment that one is good, but then it's healthy. One is kind of good and enjoyable, but maybe less healthy, or maybe whatever. So and that judgment is all in that sense of being a person who's then trying to figure out, is it conditioning, understand it, know it, figure out why, all of this, it's all in that loop of knowing. And simply what's appearing to happen is drinking a glass of wine. That's what's appearing to happen. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't need to be understood, has absolutely no significance whatsoever.
Okay.
And what that's for everything then. Of course it doesn't, because any significance is just one that you would put on it. So
what is
yeah. But for somebody who's very heavily involved in spiritual practices, they would be appalled at what I just said, really, and they would say, no, this is lowering your consciousness, lowering your energy, lowering your this. You need to stay off the wine and do this, and then that's you'll get somewhere with that. And the person very much who feels inadequate and feels unworthy then kind of buys into that whole story that, oh no, I got lazy, I'm in danger of falling down this really lazy cesspit of lazy spiritual practices and no practices, and then I need to get knock the wine on the head and get back into and just work harder, just like that's the whole message for the person. Just knuckle down, work harder. It's not being seen because you're not working hard enough, basically.
For me, the wonder was, or is this just another form of earlier conditioning?
Yeah, that's just more mind stuff. Yeah. And then what you're doing is you're putting some meaning onto having a glass of wine. Like it has some sort of meaning, and usually that it's in some way naughty. It's naughty. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm kind of enjoying it. I shouldn't be enjoying it really either. It's midweek. What am I doing?
Like great, but Jesus, it's just other conditioning.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
Like what's being shared here is completely beyond knowing and understanding. It's nothing to do with any kind of knowing or understanding. It's very, very ordinary and simple and directly just that there's just what's appearing to happen. There's no you that it's happening to. There's just what's appearing to happen.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Enjoy the wine.
I will.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, Kenneth. It's really difficult to be serious when the way you describe the me, it is just fantastic how it functions in all this. Just to come back to this space talk about, in a way, I see this scientist and spiritual people is this that it is wanting to know. Yesterday I was to a space safari through space, and there was a scientist. This and this we don't know, we want to know. This we don't know, we want to know. And then they can describe with some formulas and say it is this size and 2,000 light years from here it's this and this. But there's always this, in a way, like spiritual, the spiritual way, that wanting to go away from what is, and again, this knowing, instead of observing, and no one observes, just observing.
Oh yeah, like I mean, there's been a big departure from even in the sciences of just observing. Well, there is certain elements of science that observing is the, but all the sciences are from knowing. They're embedded in knowing, and it's the premise is that everything is knowable. So therefore, it's knowable. We can know it, and we just have to. And they're always. It's lovely because every generation feels they're the generation that knows, and the previous generations didn't know. You know, they were ignorant, but we've arrived. So there's always that sense of in knowing, of having arrived. We now know, you know, in science, we now know this, and we know this to be true. You know, you don't hear them saying we think that maybe this is. It looks like maybe this is. No, it's not that. It's we know that this is true now. And then as then time goes on, they have to readjust that, and then it's kind of, oh, well, that's not really like that either. You know, so it's just all, and it's all an aspect of that separation, living in the known. Yeah. And it's that the knowing is kind of like set, like concrete, you know. So the person lives in the known, and the knowing is established as that's reality, that's known. Because really what happens is in that all the agendas are also set, and there's a feeding in knowing, there's a feeding off that. So that's what we see in the world, is what's happening in the world, and this is what's happening in the world. What you're really seeing is a set, deciding that this is the narrative, and the narrative embeds in the agendas, and the agendas then is just a huge feeding, and then that invariably kind of moves on to another thing. Oh, well, now we know this, you know, and all of it is artificial.
Yeah.
Because what is and isn't is unknowable.
Yeah, I think you sometimes refer to, I can't remember the scientist. But there were do you know this Niels Bohr, this scientist? He just said when you come into the atom, you can't use physical terms. You can only describe it with a poem.
Okay,
yeah. It was just nice. Fantastic. This big scientist. You can't use. I can't use what I know. I have to just say wonderful or something like this when you go.
Interesting. Some of what's said in those different areas, it can be lovely. That it is more of a. And also that when you really meet, like, there is no person that has a huge intellect. There's just huge intelligence just happens. But the most beautiful ones are the ones that they're just completely operating in the unknown, really. And they're very clear about that. Is like the more that is revealed, the more my ignorance is revealed, the more I see that I just don't know at all, really.
Yeah,
you know, and that's that there's room in that. Then you see there's room in that for playfulness and creativity, whereas when everything is solid and fixed and real, we know this, then there's everything is a different energy to it, and it's shut down. That's what we're seeing in the world now, is very much because the narrative is more controlled. What they do is, what you see then is a lack of kind of debate about stuff, really. Because what they've gone for now is just, well, I'm going to just shut you out altogether, because I really don't like what you're saying about my reality, or the way we say reality is, and how dare you kind of question anything about it. So we're just going to put the mute button on you and you and you and you, and then everything's going to be fine. And it's all because we're right, because we know that we're right. So therefore, it's totally justified to mute all you guys over here. Don't just just because like what you're saying. No, you know, that's what it's so polarized, and It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also what you see then is when there's a living in the known and there's everything is established to be, this is the way things are and this is the way the world is and this is what happened here. There's generally, it's kind of like going down a one-way street. The person won't, it's not possible to stop and reverse the car back and say, do you know what, on closer inspection, we were completely wrong about this and this and this, and all of that energy we put into this and this and this was a complete waste of fucking time. Which is really the way life is, because life is messy and people, you know, you think, even if you're doing it for the right reasons, you think that you're doing the right thing, and then you see, oh well, sure, that was actually, I was mistaken with that, and it was actually just this. But there's, because the energy of the individual is living in the known, that's suicide to the person. Saying that that's wrong is, you know, in all sorts of ways. And also because the agendas are set, then there's a feeding off that too, and that will only be collapse when that's kind of finished. And that's what you see. People never, when's the last time you saw a politician or someone saying, yeah, we completely messed that one up, we got that wrong, completely wrong. Yeah. Never, because they are always right, because they have to be right, because being right and living in the known is all about being a person.
Yeah.
You know, it's death. It's death to say that I'm you know, I got that completely wrong and that's all wrong, you know, and blah blah blah. That's why you don't see it. And yeah, it's just spin. The narrative is just all spin.
Yeah, it's really seldom you see a politician say, oh, okay, now you say it, I will correct my view.
Yeah. No, when you put it like that, I've just realized I was completely wrong in that one. But wouldn't that be so refreshing and gorgeous? Because that's how, you know, that's how things are really. Everyone is, but all of that's a story too. But yeah. There you go.
Just to hear a person say, I will stop immediately in politics.
No, it's just, the whole thing is just increasingly polarized, increasingly dualistic, increasingly I'm right, you're wrong, increasingly lack of any kind of dialogue, engagement, because all I need to do is just cancel you, really, isn't that it? Because I know that I'm right, the only thing I need to do is just cancel you and everything's sorted. Cancel button, hit the cancel button. You know, it's just it's amazing the way things appear to be. And then this is the reality that then people think, you know, this is the world is this it's real and it's sane and it's logical and linear, and then many would hear what's being shared here as complete madness. And then actually when it's seen, the whole thing reverses around, and what we take to be reality is just a complete circus. It's totally and utterly mad. Yeah. It's completely mad, and I think that's become more and more obvious. The narrative, you know, we're all hearing narrative, the narrative about this, the narrative being controlled, like it's a very common thing now, and what's being shared in this communication is beyond the narrative being right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. The narrative is a narrative. It's empty because it's a story. And at the heart of everything that is there, it's empty. Of course it's empty because everything is nothing and nothing is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There you go, Kim. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, Victoria.
Okay.
I completely forgot what I wanted to. Anyway, doesn't matter. We have a government, the previous one, the communist, alcoholist, psychopath leader said we fucked up everything. And someone recorded this, and it was in the television and everywhere. So they fucked up.
Oh, there you go. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a bit of honesty for a while. We fucked up everything.
Yeah, because he was drunk all the time, you know, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And a message to Claire, be careful with the wine, or only one glass.
Well, Wednesday is going to become like wine tasting. This is what will happen. A Wednesday morning meeting. You'll see me with my glass of wine.
Because the first
and then I'll be an alcoholic within 6 months, and then I can just blame Claire. Then can't I? I could say, Claire, it's all your fault. Like you put me on that. You said it was okay.
Thank you.
I just tell you, the first glass drinks the second one. So.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Even more dangerous is spiritual laziness. Oh, thanks guys. That was really lovely. Lovely to see you. I just put a link in the chat. I'll put one in again. Contributions, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'll see you soon. I have an email coming about my Galway weekend, which is about 3.5 weeks away. I think I put one out yesterday. You can go to the homepage and sign up, and I'll do a video and all that soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.